And now I'm joined by Subir Bhaumik ji and Hejang Misao. A very warm welcome to both of you. Dada,
Yes, tell me.
Dada, your first comments on this video, the so-called outrage and nothing happening in parliament. What do you make of it? ये हुआ क्या?
I don't think this is so-called outrage. The fact is that this video has now surfaced. But the problem is that this video has been around for a long time. It has now become viral. And people who want to make politics out of it, that's a different issue. But the basic fact that such a thing has happened in Manipur exemplifies the brutality that has come to define this conflict. The conflict, which essentially started off as an ethnic conflict, but then has been given religious overtones. The point that one has to come up here with is this has happened. Now, earlier we have seen in Manipur that crime against women was non-existent. Even when the Nagas and Kukis, the militias, they fought each other very viciously, hundreds of people were killed. Attack on women, rape on women, this was non-existent. I think this is the mainstream impact on Manipuri society, which has actually brought things to this pass, because earlier there were murders, there were killings, there were massacres, but not crime against women. In fact, when there was this famous case of the so-called rape of Thangjam Manorama by Assam Rifle troopers, see, elderly Manipuri women under the leadership of some of the famous women organizations, they get out the Assam Rifles headquarters, they took their clothes off, and they put up posters saying Indian Army come and rape us, which is something of a huge embarrassment for the Assam Rifles. But what I'm trying to say is that such incidents were not happening within the local conflict, which means when Nagas were attacking Kuki villages, Naga militias and Kukis militias were attacking, they were killing people, they're not raping women, they're not. Now, this is a new dimension which adds a new whole dimension to the brutality of this conflict. Second thing which I am going to re-emphasize is, apart from this video and the bestiality displayed and all these things, the fact is that this conflict is far from over. And you still have killings happening, you still have a lot of stuff happening in Manipur, but there is very little effort, I would imagine, from the government in the state, not just to control this, but also to actually bring to book errant policemen who had given out weapons to troublemakers from their own community. You know, this was a big joke that the government put up drop boxes asking people who had run away with weapons. Now, if I run away with a weapon from a police station, I'll be sued under the Arms Act. But in Manipur, if I run away with a weapon, I'll be requested to go and deposit it in a drop box set up by the government. My point here is very simple. Why can't the state DGP be asked to tell his station house officers that if these weapons have gone out in the open from police armories and there was no real evidence that there was force, this was willingly given out, why can't they bring back these weapons? They know where these weapons have gone, who were given these weapons. So when things like this happen, it means that the state has withered away. The state is not really functioning, because weapons which are meant for police or uniformed forces, when they go out into the open with the active connivance of members of the force, and they can't be recovered in reasonable numbers over the last months, few months. Now, that means that state is not functioning in Manipur. And this is an inescapable conclusion that I have come to, that the state is not working. But people who are running the state are very much in power. They have not been touched, they have not been removed. Poor Biplab Dev in Tripura, a much smaller controversy, he lost his chief ministership. But same principle has not been applied in Manipur. So, you know, there are many governance issues which I want to raise rather than focus just on this video, which is important because it displays a certain level of bestiality which was non-existent in Northeast. I, as a journalist, have covered at least 4 decades of violence in Northeast, but when it came to people within the Northeast, Nagas fighting Kukis, Kukis fighting Meiteis, people are not raping each other's women. Women were spared, children were spared. That's not the case now. I would imagine there is some kind of a mainstream effect or something, but I really don't know. But without trying to emphasize too much on this video, which has now gone viral and which people are now going to raise for their own sweet reasons, I would actually try, Kartikeya, to draw your attention to the non-functioning of the government in Manipur that is evident
Correct.
by the failure or otherwise to recover the weapons which were willingly given out to the troublemakers at the very start of the conflict. Nearly 3 months have passed, and these rifles are still in the open. And when rifles are in the hands of troublemakers, you can't control violence because these troublemakers, even hardline insurgents, have an agenda. They don't go and shoot people just like that. They have targeting. They have specific targeting. So even when they have weapons, their violence is specifically directed. But when rioters have these kind of weapons, God bless the state. You can't control them. You can't control the situation.
Mr. Misau,
Yes.
your opening comments?
Thanks, Kartikeya, for this show again, where I find this platform as the right platform where I could speak out on behalf of those victims. When in most of the talk show, when we say the complicity, the connivance of the state forces, government with the Meitei mobs, the world hardly believes us. Now the video got viral and it has come to the surface and people begin to understand what we mean by the complicity and connivance of the state forces, the state government with the Meitei mobs. This is just one incident, and fortunately, God didn't allow it to be hidden so that justice can be given to these two of our beloved sisters who have undergone such traumatic incidents. Now, what about the two Kuki women from his Kupibu who were working at a car wash in Infa, who were raped and murdered in Konung Mama? The second, what about the mother of a Kuki mother and two of her daughters in their Uripok residence? Uripok is in Infal. And the other one is the kidnapping of Kuki woman from Chekun, raped twice in Langor, and Ngarian Hill, who had a narrow escape. What about the lynching of two nursing students in Purampat who were left to die on the street but had miraculously escaped? Their video needs to be surfaced so that the world understand how much our girls, our beloved girls, are suffering. Now, when we said the beastly attitude, the devilish attitude of these people, the world didn't understand. Now, fortunately, when this video went viral, the world began to understand. Now, there are lots of unreported incidents where rapes, killings are taking place. One widow from Peitangjing village was shot, amputated, and burned alive. I have the videos, I have the photos. Now, my heart, I have no words what to talk about because these women, these girls whom I talk about, the videos that went viral, the two ladies who work in the car wash in Infal, and the other girls, the widows who was amputated, killed, and burned alive, they all belong to the place where I live. It's just within the jurisdiction of this cycle police station. I belong to that police station, that jurisdiction, and it is very painful for me to talk about all these things. Now, fortunately, after this video went viral, the Prime Minister began to talk. What are they doing when more than 150 people's lives were lost? Now, that's only reported lives. There are hundreds of people who die already because of this violence. What is the government doing? Now, I would come out clearly when the Kukis are demanding separate administration. I think the world will understand now why would our girls experience all this rape,
Two
all
things.
this
There
molestation,
are two
all
things.
this hardship to live under
You,
this same
you know
administration.
that there are
That's
two
why.
things. There are two things. One is separate administration. Another is complete collapse of what you had called state of Manipur, which Bhaumik ji talked about, which is the weapons not there. I don't think separate administration in this context will have ever materialize. What can happen is more autonomy. But what has happened is that the complete collapse of administration and lack of accountability. I mean, so despite all this, I've been saying for frivolous reasons, states have been dismissed, and you have Manipur where no central intervention has taken place. Dada.
Yeah, what I fully agree with your line of argument. The point is, I don't want. That's why I told you at the very beginning that don't want to harp on this video, because here girls of a particular community, women of a particular community have been put through this bestial torture. But similar things might have happened to women of the other community as well, because these kind of situations, somebody does something here, it has an automatic reaction. There is a bit like, every action having equal and opposite reaction. But the point is here, when you bring up this separate administration state and autonomy, now I have from the very beginning insisted that the answer to this problem is extension of tribal autonomy and empowering the autonomous body in a meaningful way so that the cookies feel that they have a stake in an integrated Manipur, but they also have control over their own acre of green grass, which means their own area. Now, there is a feeling among some people in Manipur and in Delhi that if you give tribal autonomy, tomorrow they'll ask for a separate state. No, we in Tripura extended tribal autonomy to the tribals. 30% of the population got control over 70% of land. Has Tripura broken up? Has somebody? There were demands of a separate Tripura land by this royal skier King Pradut Kishore, but no tribals really paid any heed to it. The elections came and went, and today the prince himself is saying he will go out of politics. That is the fate of the separate state demand, because the tribals feel they have nothing really more to gain by a separate state. They have enough autonomy, they're happy with it. Why can't the same thing happen in Manipur? Why people think that if we give autonomy to Kukis and Nagas, they'll break away from Manipur? My argument is no. You will turn them from disgruntled elements into stakeholders in the future state of Manipur. And by saying future state of Manipur, I want to insist that when I talk of a future state of Manipur, it's with a vision in mind that there will be no ethnic conflict there, that all the three communities and other smaller communities as well will have a stake in the future growth of Manipur. Manipur is the gateway into Southeast Asia, and therefore, without this gateway operationalizing itself, success of Narendra Modi's much touted Act East will never work. So Manipur has to be peaceful. Myanmar has to be peaceful before India's Look East policy actually gets any traction. And unless you are using it as a cliche for the sake of it, you have to get these things right. There can't be connectivity, international trade, and commerce over an area which is so disturbed. So, getting the political resolution of these conflicts, and these conflicts are primarily ethnic and political, that an ethnic community feels disgruntled because they don't have autonomy, you address this issue. Address this issue with the right intent instead of responding to it with a parochialist kind of an idea that, oh, if I give them autonomy, they're going to make a separate state. No. If the elder brother pacifies the younger brother and takes care of his aspirations, he's not going to break the joint family. He's not going to run away. But if the elder brother is too overbearing, and especially the elder sister-in-law is too overbearing, and we know this happen in Indian families, South Asian families, then the younger brother and his wife will break away and go and take a separate apartment, a separate flat, which is where the separate administration comes in. So, I don't think if you address the issue of tribal autonomy properly, there will be any real traction, any real push for separate administration. But why at the moment this is happening again and again is because there is no apparent display of intent by both the state government and also, the important elements of the majority community, that they will address the genuine tribal aspirations for autonomy with the right bent of mind, with an open mind, should I say. They think, oh, if we give them autonomy, they will ask for more, there will be a separate state. No, sir. But if you don't give them autonomy, this whole thing is going to burn like a slow fire. And finally, this will actually cause irrefutable damage, irreversible damage to the fabric of the present state of Manipur.